You found us. Rubbin' is Racing is back. Make sure you like and subscribe and follow this page for new NASCAR content coming every Thursday all season long. Subscribe.
Hey everybody, welcome on back. It's the Rubbing is Racing podcast. It's me and Spider, and we're starting off 2023 with a bang, as we normally do. Spider and I are in the studio, in the radio studio right now, with Chase Elliott. And Chase Elliott says, hey, I have a friend I want to bring along. I said, yeah, sure, you can bring him along. So we're here with Chase Elliott and Jeff Gordon, an absolute legend of the game.
Right now, I'm just like happy to be on his friend list. You know, right. I mean, that's a short list. I mean, he's
right. Well, are you a friend or a boss?
Well, exactly. I mean, you know, that can take you off the friend list in a hurry. But luckily, no, we get along pretty good.
I'm just happy we're all being graced with the presence of a former host of Saturday Night Live.
Right.
So let's not forget about that.
Yeah, 20 years ago. Let's remember that too.
The first time we interviewed you, Jeff, it just took so long to run down all your accomplishments, right? It's almost embarrassing at this point. But I will say that whenever Spider and I speak about Rushmore drivers, you're one of the four. And this season, one of the other Rushmore drivers is stepping off the mountain and getting back into a race car, Jimmy Johnson. Spider had said the reason you're not doing it is because of alcohol and laziness. This is your chance.
How did you know me so well?
No, but how do you feel about a guy that, you know, you've obviously raced against a couple of times? I know that you probably get the itch to kind of get back in, or maybe not, I don't know. But how do you feel about that? And, like, do we see you all of a sudden making a run?
I admire the heck out of Jimmy. Not just what he's going to do this year in NASCAR, but what he's been doing with IndyCar. You know, and I mean that it takes a commitment, right? And you know also kind of the balls to go out there and try something so unique and different after you've had a full career. I mean, usually you see young guys do that, and for Jimmy to do it, I think it shows you his commitment, his talent, his work ethic, and what makes him, to me, one of the all-time greats. So I'm excited to see how it goes. You know, and I mean, to kick it off at Daytona, Chase and I were just talking about this. I mean, Daytona, you're going to roll out and qualify, one lap qualifying, right, and straight into the duels. And there's a pretty deep list of drivers that are not locked in.
Right.
You know? So they're going to have to qualify pretty good, and then he might have to race in through the duels. So that's going to be fascinating to watch. But I think from my standpoint, it's great to have him back in the sport. You know, after he stepped away as an owner, as a representative, and as an ambassador. I mean, you know, a 7-time champion. You want him around as much as possible.
100%.
But I don't have any desire.
You don't? Honest to God, though, you don't get the itch like everybody else does?
I did a race last year in a sports car, and I liked it, but I didn't want to really push myself that hard. I just want to go out and have fun. You know, that to me, I raced for so long. I started racing when I was 5-6 years old, and loved the grind, but got to a point in my life where I was like, I'm ready to grind it out with something else, and luckily I was able to do TV for Fox, and now I feel like I'm in a role that I'm just loving, which is, you know, being at Hendrick Motorsports.
Can you talk a little bit about that role? I know we have so many drivers nowadays, or former drivers, semi-retired, part-time driving as with Jimmy Johnson. I'm more curious about your day-to-day in terms of chairman with Hendrick Motorsports, co-owner. What does that look like? What is the hardest part of your job?
My head starts spinning.
Dealing with me.
Yeah. Try to keep him straight. No, he makes my life a lot easier. You know, I mean, part of the job is you know, working with. I mean, luckily I work with great people. Let's be honest, I came into a pretty darn good situation, and you know, it's been a lot of work to get there, and I've been fortunate to be, you know, partners with Rick for a long time, and him be my mentor. So I feel like I'm in a good place in my life and the perspective I have on the sport to be able to do this, but it's a lot of work. You know, there's just, luckily it's a lot of fun, exciting things that are being thrown at Hendrick Motorsports on a daily basis. And it could be, you know, rearranging a race team with a new crew chief or a driver. It could be trying to land a sponsor or trying to keep one of our sponsors or you know, there's a lot of fundraising, no doubt, that goes into it. We're fortunate we have the B2B with the Hendrick Automotive Group that helps tie a lot of our sponsors like Axalta and Valvoline and Napa to them. But, you it's something different all the time. I mean, I worked recently on the IndyCar, Indy 500 program we're doing, a little bit on the Garage 56, be going to Le Mans, but most importantly, it's just seeing these guys have all the tools, Chase and Kyle and William and Alex just have all the tools that they need, just like I did as a driver at Hendrick, to go out there and win races and championships.
Chase, I'm going to go to you then. So when Jimmy was racing in, I don't know, arguably may have been the modern heyday of NASCAR, and he was the best racer in the world, I'm sure he was under a tremendous amount of pressure. I look at the Barstool Sportsbook. I know you guys can't speak about that. You're the odds-on favorite in the Cup Series this year. You're odds-on favorite in Daytona this year. You made it into the Final Four last season, and not winning a Cup Series is a disappointment for you. I know that because you're a fierce competitor, but it's also a disappointment then to your fans because they expect so much for you. I think the expectations are higher than you than almost any other athlete in professional sport, right? Considering the field and whatnot, because being an individual sport thing, maybe certain golfers and whatnot, but I think you're up there. How do you? This is kind of like making it not too easy on you, but how do you feel about that? How do you deal about that going through? And I know you've done it too, Jeff, back in your day, but how do you feel going through all that pressure, Chase, going into the 2023 season?
Yeah, I mean, I don't really look at it like that. So, I totally respect where you're coming from, but I think from my perspective, I've just been so one-track mind on the competition aspect of like what my role is, what my job is, what I need to bring to the table to earn my place and show my worth. And that's just really where my head's always been, really from day one, just about, hey, what do I need to do? What can I do to better myself as a driver, as a competitor, whether it's preparation during the week or pushing myself a little further at the track, that weekend. And that's really always been my mindset. Yes, obviously Dad had a great career, grew up.
I didn't even mention that too. You like growing up,
answering questions, about Dad first, right? And then it was Jeff stepping away, right? And me going to drive the 24. So, I feel like that's always been a topic of conversation. Right, wrong, or indifferent, good or bad. I feel that I've had a good enough of a support system around me and a good enough group of people to always help me keep my eyes on the things that are important, and the rest of it really is just very much irrelevant to me, to be completely honest.
And by the way, I find that interesting because I think race car drivers in general, but the greats, they're able to compartmentalize their job at hand, and I think he just spoke to that. That's one of the things that makes him a champion and one of the best out there is being able to block out all the disruptions.
How did you do it? I mean, did you punch holes in the wall? Like where every now and again we'll see you getting perhaps little altercations when stuff happens on the course, right, on the track. I get into altercations if somebody cuts me off in the Bell Parkway, so I understand that. But is there a steam release that keeps you from not being a mental patient? Was there a steam release for you?
Well, start with you.
But
we've seen mine. As I got older, I got a little grumpier.
Yeah, I think everybody has their own way of decompressing or dealing with those issues. I just, and I think a lot of people give me hell for just how boring I am in a lot of those instances. But I also recognize what matters and what doesn't, and adding fuel to the fire in a lot of those situations just does no one any good, and it ends up becoming a distraction for my race team in weeks to come. And at that point in time, it's taken away from the job that I need to do the next week, so that helps me make the decision to refrain from it today. And that's just kind of how how I've chose to go about a lot of that stuff. I haven't always done it right. Don't get me wrong. I've made my mistakes too, but you have to step back and look at what is going to hurt me next week, what's going to help me next week, and that is ultimately all that matters, because you can't go back and change whatever it was that happened.
And everything's on tape, right? I mean, as you do, whenever it happens, it's
always
there now forever. So that's
usually you learn from your mistakes. Not to mention, you got to race against all these guys
the same
week after week after week. We all want rivalries. We all want to see these emotions come out and bumping and banging and knocking guys out of the way. But the problem is, how do you do that week after week and it not come back to hurt you maybe more than what it helped you?
Jeff, NASCAR celebrating their 75th season this year. Obviously, it's crazy that how far they've come in just those years. What do you think the next 75 years of NASCAR look like? I know you raced in Japan in 1996 with NASCAR event. We see NASCAR doing similar events recently with the upcoming Clash. We had that last year as well. What's your take on those new efforts, and how do you think we keep the upward trajectory?
Yeah, I think that we're going to see a snapshot this year of what's possible and kind of what the future has to hold for NASCAR. I mean, you mentioned it, the Clash, right? If you can put on an event in a stadium like that or an arena, what other places could we go? Could you go to London and Wembley, and could you go to Brazil or go to the Middle East? Who knows where you can go with that and put on a heck of a show and bring people that have maybe never seen a NASCAR race together. I think it'd be very entertaining. Then you got the street course in Chicago. If you can go race on a street course in the middle of a metropolitan city, who knows what's next? Where could you take that? So I think it's really exciting. And then I also love the throwback at North Wilkesboro, track I haven't been to in 30 years or something like that. So that's super cool to me that we're going to get that opportunity to see this track that really helped build NASCAR in a county that really the history of NASCAR was almost built on, and go back there. So you have the new and the old.
Does it piss off the drivers? Chase, does it piss off the drivers when NASCAR, listen, you have to stay relevant. You have to do stuff that's shiny on TV. The Chicago race is a perfect example. You guys are going to be going 150 miles past spectators who are late to work because of, your track. There's going to be some gunplay at some point, I think. How do you feel about that? Like going to L.A., I know it doesn't count necessarily, but would you rather just get to it? Just get to the, what counts and the NASCAR stuff that you've gotten your skill set into a place where you're very good at it. So you don't want to all of a sudden do something in Dubai. You don't want to all of a sudden do something where you got to make a hard left turn on Wacker in Chicago. Or is it something where you're like, screw it, I'll just race anywhere, any day?
Yeah, I mean, it's a... Don't get me wrong. I mean, I think the event in Chicago is going to be a great event. Mm-hmm. Is it going to be the most fun thing to drive on from a driver's perspective? No, probably not. Just like the Coliseum isn't the most exhilarating thing I've ever done behind the wheel of a race car. But at the same time, you have to recognize these things for what they are and what we're trying to accomplish. And this day and time, you're never going to build a racetrack inside a city or really anywhere close to it. Most places we go are an hour outside of any market we visit. You have the only opportunity that stands out, outside of that is the fairgrounds in Nashville. That place is sitting there waiting.
Right.
But outside of that, you have to be creative and find ways to get into some of these different markets. And even if it's not, again, the most exciting racetrack for us to drive on, if we're able to get in a different market and potentially get some new eyeballs, and if it's, you find 100 extra people are going to pay attention to the sport, throughout the entire season or want to learn more about it, then I think it's a win. And I think when you have events in cities like that, just the ease of access, you have a pretty good shot of making it a fun time for the spectators, and I anticipate that's what Chicago will be. That's what the intention has been at the Coliseum. I think it'll be, much like it was last year. So I look at those things as events more so than I do the greatest stock car race.
Well, I kind of like festivals, so I'm good with it.
Yeah.
I mean, it's totally different. My perspective now, looking at the sport. And especially when I'm on the fundraising side of things, it's how do we draw companies in to get their customers engaged. So, we need these guys being rock stars and going out there and putting on a great show on the track. And then we need to find a way to engage the fans that make them choose, because they get the choice, where do I want to go be entertained, or where do I want to turn my channel to on my TV to watch an event or a sporting event or just something entertaining. And you hope that they choose a NASCAR event.
Once you get them hooked, once you get that hook into them, where do they have to go? Like Spider and I, this year we're going to Daytona again. We'll be at Nashville again. We're going to Talladega for the first time. Neither of us have been to Talladega.
You're gonna love it.
Yeah,
I've been.
Oh, you've been. That's right. It's my first time in Talladega. My son goes to Alabama, Roll Tide, Rush Pike. So I'm going to try to bring like a busload of his fraternity down, which is probably going to end terribly. But where do these guys need to go once you get that hook into you with NASCAR as far as the live? Where do I got to bring Za? Well, like, where do I bring people to really get the NASCAR experience?
Bristol,
baby. Yes.
Really? That's
Bristol would be
first thing.
Would be the top of my list, and then Darlington probably shortly there behind it. Would be my two.
I have to tell a story. It's actually with one of Chase's sponsors.
Imagine if Jeff Gordon wanted to tell a story and rubbing his face, and we're like, "I'm sorry, Jeff, we don't have time.
We're out of time.
Shut up. It's all about him."
So prior to the Bristol race this last year, I was sitting on Chase's pit box. They were getting ready to get in the car and start the engines up to go race. And so we had an executive from Hooters that had, I don't know if he'd never been to he'd never been to Bristol before. And I remember sitting there with him, and I'm looking in awe because it's a stadium. It's this arena. It's unbelievable, the energy when you have a big crowd there.
And probably the best crowd and most energetic Bristol night race we've had in
a long time.
In a long time, too.
Yes. And so I was feeling it. I mean, right now I have chills at my spine remembering that moment because I was like, NASCAR's back, baby. This is awesome. Yep. And this gentleman said to me, holy cow, where have I been? How have I missed this? And I said, this is one of the greatest racing events you're ever going to. And he loved it. I mean, he ate it up, couldn't get enough of it. And that's why I agree. Bristol is just an awesome experience.
Totally agree. I mean, the night race for me, when I was a kid and I was going to the tracks and going to the races with Dad and Mom, that Bristol night race was one of, if not the single event that made me want to go do it.
Really? Wow.
Like just that event was such a spectacle and a sight to see. It was like if you weren't at the Bristol night race, you weren't living. Like there wasn't anything else going on in the world to me. And it was just at that point in time, I mean, it was wild. And this past year's event reminded me the most of those days, more than any other year in my Cup career thus far. So it was a special race this year, I thought personally.
Yeah, and then Talladega,
Can't wait.
It's a party, and then there's a race that's going to break out.
You said you're a festival guy. That's like pretty much that kind of vibe.
I'm not sure I would call it a festival.
No,
I mean that's putting it.
Hey,
I drove by there.
That's a NASCAR festival, right there.
I drove by Talladega, dropping my kid off at school. And somebody's like, "Oh, there's the racetrack." I'm like, "There's nothing else here." Like you drive by Daytona, Speedway or whatever. There's still, a Cracker Barrel there, a gas station. So I'm dying to see how they set up essentially a city around this thing for the race. It's gonna be. We're gonna try to stay in the infield for that race. We haven't slept in the infield yet. Spider
There's
and I.
plenty of room.
Yes, yeah, exactly. So we're really looking forward to it. What do you got?
Yeah, largest son, obviously a big Alabama Roll Tide guy. You're a Georgia guy, obviously through and through. I feel like when Georgia has success, so does Chase. They just won the national championship. Is that foreshadowing maybe another potential?
Maybe. Hey, listen, I'm all for that because I think they're around for a while. So yeah, if their success equals success for us, I'm all for it. But they had another great year. It was super fun to watch, and I've been a Georgia fan as long as I can remember. Never, I didn't go to school. wasn't near smart enough to get into Georgia, number one, but didn't go to school there. But just been a fan, and like a lot of people from around home, and it's been fun to see our team, kind of see your home team do good. It's not something you see every day.
It's very, very nice. I'm looking for Bama to do well because I'm paying $52,000 a year.
Is that all?
Yeah, please go to Class Mick. We're going to close it up because we've kept you guys here enough. But before I do, one of the things that I've always found admirable about most drivers, particularly you two gentlemen, the last time we were supposed to speak, it was in September. You were driving the car that was designed by the young lady who was in the hospital at the time. And then we spoke to you about your foundations. So can I just take a couple of minutes from you guys just to talk about your foundations? Because I think it's extraordinary what you guys are doing.
Yeah, I appreciate it. I mean, Chase has really been active with his foundation. Go ahead and talk about it.
Yeah, either way, you can go for it. But yeah, for me, it's been, it's grown over the past 3 or 4 years, and really credit to Napa. I mean, I know, your stereotypical NASCAR driver answer, but really and truly, that program started really small, and Napa got involved and basically gave up their primary race sponsorship to get the hospital involved and to get the foundation involved. And you don't see that every day, really, with corporate America
awesome.
and people being willing to do that. So I thought it said a lot about Napa. Great initiative, way to really open some eyes to that program, and felt like we've made a difference over the last couple of years, and it's been a pleasure to be a part of.
I think this really hits home for me in NASCAR's 75th anniversary, because I think back when I came into the sport, and I wanted to make it right. I wanted to be there and make an impact, win a race, but I wanted to live up to Richard Petty and Bill Elliott and Dale Earnhardt and these guys. And what I admired about them was that they weren't just focused on racing. They were doing things for their community or doing things for others, taking that opportunity and building on it, doing good with it. And so that's why I wanted to start a foundation. Also, my crew chief for Evernham, his son was diagnosed with leukemia, so that's where we started focusing on pediatric cancer, and been fortunate since 1999 to continue to build on that and have great programs, great support from some sponsors, but mainly fans and just people that believe in the cause, which has been just very rewarding.
And it's extremely admirable. All right, so we're going to wrap it up. We're sitting here with a living legend, Hall of Famer, and with an elite NASCAR driver and a future Hall of Famer. We couldn't be more than thrilled that you guys agreed to do this stuff with us. We're a small podcast, and NASCAR has been very, very good to Barstool. The access they give us is almost too good. So I expect to see you guys in the 1948 Club. Please don't ignore me again, Chase. You've done it a couple times.
Have I? Oh, he's never
Chase is going to be moving to the front of the room this year.
You hear I said, though, have I? Because he knows. He gives people a stink eye every now and then.
He's very focused. He's focused.
Yeah. But we
like our guys focused.
100%, yeah, especially on game day. But thanks again.
You'll see me pitching and selling.
100%. Yeah, it's like, I walked out there with a set of encyclopedias. So it's Spider, it's me, it's Rubbing and Racing. I will see you guys next time.